So welcome in. This is Facebook Live number 2 this evening. We've got a couple of hours under our belt. I stuck my head out the door a few minutes ago. It's snowing pretty good here off of Humboldt Street. We're in the Rochester area, obviously, and there's going to be a lot of you waking up to a good amount of snow here tomorrow. All right, so feel free to, in the comments section, give us a quick hello. We give a couple of shout-outs. I always like chit-chatting with everybody. And we'll spend the next 10 to 15 minutes here going through what I am seeing here tonight. And there are a few interesting things, we'll leave it at that with radar right now, that we will have to see how things continue to evolve through the course of the night that could play into some of our snowfall accumulation. So hi, Jason. Teresa, no kidding, a lot of the state of Texas, they took this pretty hard between some of the snow, ice, and the very cold air. Theodore joins us from Palmyra. I see Solomon. Boy, I got a lot of comments coming in here. Hello from Millbrook, from Beatrix. Joe says logged on in Parrington. Kathy joining us from Hamlin. All spots here tonight that are seeing snow, and a lot more still yet to come. Let's take a little walk through here. So what I've got this on, I've got different levels of radar data, and some are a bit more high resolution. This is not my favorite, but I think it's going to do the best job just because it shows you where snow would transition to a wintry mix. So here's the deal right now. Areas in the Rochester specifically region, it's moderate snow at this point. You will note there's some deeper blue colors that are starting to infiltrate from south to north. That's going to be your heavier bands of snow. And it is really coming down right now across the New York and Pennsylvania border. We're looking at likely 1 to 1.5 inch an hour snow rates, so that's pretty good stuff. You're getting into like heavy lake effect band snowfall rates with that territory, and you note the progression of this. It's all lifting northward. So with each passing hour, we think through at least the next 6 hours, the snow is going to continue to steadily and progressively just get heavier. Right now, I think at our station, we've seen maybe an inch of accumulation, but obviously with those inch plus an hour snow bands coming on in, we're going to be adding out of those totals pretty quickly. Now, the parent storm system itself, we'll kind of walk you through here where things are shaping up. The area of low pressure right now is located right about there. So we're just to the south of the Ohio Valley. And a few things that draw my attention here, skedoodle a little bit for you. It's always fun to do that. So we've got this band of heavy snow that is lifting in right now, and then we've got an additional band that is trying to get going on the back side. Now, something that has my attention, look at this in here. There's a lot of dead space in there right now. A lot of our computer models are operating under the assumption that where you're not seeing anything at the moment on radar south of Cleveland, Ohio, you should be. So it begs the question, so why are we not? And the answer to that in these setups is typically there is some drier air that has worked its way into this. So my question now becomes, is that a short-term deal? Is that something that is going to continue to plague that part of the storm for a while, or are we going to start to fill this back in? Now, you'll note here as you go southwest of Cleveland, they get in on a break here, Cleveland, Akron, Mansfield, but then you've got this backside burst of some moderate and heavy snow working on in. Does that moisture kind of catch up? And you allow this to start to fill in? If it doesn't fill in, what we're going to end up getting is probably 5 or 6 hours of this, and then, do we get a little bit of a break and then have to wait for the backside stuff to come in? And there's a part of me that thinks the answer to that's reasonably yes. And I think some of the high-res models have kind of hinted at that. And it's not that anybody's been ignoring them. It's just been one of those, let's see how this kind of plays out. So, that might be something that ends up happening here, that by early tomorrow morning, we've had a good swath of snow that's come on by, and then there's a bit of a break before snow redevelops on the back side of this. And that is not uncommon in these setups and in these situations. So we're going to watch this. That dry air is clearly doing a number right now in northeast Ohio, and if it continues to do a number, that would likely cause us to kind of err on the lower end of some of our snowfall projections here, but I'm not at a point right now tonight, just based off of that, to pull the trigger on that. I really haven't changed the logic overall. It's something worth noting. It's something that we are looking at, and remains to be seen if it becomes more important to how this will go into the morning. Roadway impacts here as we talk timing. If you're headed out right now, it's still really not that bad. Roads are now getting snow covered. So I could argue that maybe we need to go up one on those impacts, but certainly in the next hour or two here, With that snow continuing to pick up, impacts will just get worse through most of the overnight hours. Heavy snow is going to be expected. Travel is not encouraged overnight tonight, but we're going to hold out for at least some hope here that by 9 a.m. tomorrow morning that things will slowly be improving. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean I'm telling you at 9 a.m. you're going to be great? No, I'm not saying that at all, but some of the worst driving conditions are going to be when the snow is heaviest. And we think the heaviest snow is largely going to be done by 9 o'clock in the morning. That doesn't mean roads just magically turn, completely snow-free and you're back to open pavement. It's going to take these crews a lot of work tonight to keep up with those conditions, and it will very likely take them some time, even as things start to wind down, to be able to get those roads into a spot that it still wouldn't be moderately impactful. That will likely continue into the afternoon. Some of that wraparound moisture with lake effect will get going too. And especially some of your lake effect prone areas, moderate impacts south of there. Hopefully we can go more low impact. So I think the overall tone is the peak of this is overnight. It will be slow and gradual improvement through the course of the day on Tuesday. Now here's how FutureView looks at this. We go into 1, 2, 3, 4 o'clock, not much changes. Now our in-house model is kind of doing what we talked about. Look at that. So the center of low pressure with our in-house model is right in there. So it is trying to suggest we get some dry air. And, those dry slots are pretty common just on the east side of where that surface low is going to be going. So a lot of that makes sense. But, the question I have is, are we going to get a zone on the back edge of this that it really doesn't stop snowing? And that's where we got to kind of put that band. So 7 o'clock tomorrow morning, we've really quieted it down here, but we got to find where exactly this guy is going to be. This is your... I tried to write band, but it didn't want to let me do it. That's where your snow is going to continue. Winds will then turn around to the northwest eventually through the course of the day. That will allow some of those lake effect snow showers to continue to get going all the way into Tuesday night. So again, your commute impact tomorrow morning, I do still think we're largely looking at some pretty significant delays. Temperatures in Rochester will be in the 20s. South of the thruway, we are closer to the freezing mark, and that is another part of this conversation. Sleet and freezing rain could start to mix in here as far north as about the Rochester area late overnight into the wee hours of the morning. And with that in mind, I think the farther south and southeast you go, there's going to be more sleet eroding away at some of those snow totals. So we're down more toward 6 inches, maybe as much as 9 through most of the Finger Lakes. The heaviest snowfall totals will come in areas that do not see much or any changeover at all, and also don't see that drier air starting to work its way in. And that's a really close shave for Rochester. If that drier air is still a player here into early tomorrow morning, I will tell you now, 9 to 12 is probably too high. If that band continues to hold tight, like some of our other models are suggesting, 9 to 12 is good. And it's a higher likelihood that we just continue with snow without any dry spots eroding that away, west and north of Rochester especially, plus the fact that we're getting some of that lake effect on the backside too. These are the spots that could end up with a foot of snowfall out of this. But you're not going to have a foot on the ground by tomorrow morning. Remember, this is going to be through tomorrow night where you get maybe some added inches after that morning stuff. That's going to be the way we get a foot. I don't see any way here. And we weren't advertising this even from the get-go, but I haven't changed that thinking that you're going to be waking up to a foot of snow tomorrow. That appears highly unlikely to me. I think a lot of you are waking up to more in the line of half a foot, maybe close to 9 inches. Then we add those several inches on top of that in that red area where you start to get some of that lake effect. So that's how we get to a foot of snow out of this. We've got this up on our website. I've put it out on Twitter as well. We can only fit so many towns and cities on these snow maps and all the weather graphics we use over 10 minutes. So basically what I've done is I've picked 30 bigger towns on this, especially ones that don't appear on our snow map. And I know we're missing a bunch, I understand, but I can only fit so many even on this particular one to kind of give you an idea of what we're looking at. But the overall tone out of this is, I think the closer you are to the lake, the higher your likelihood that you see a foot out of this. The farther away you are from the lake, the higher the likelihood that your sweet spot is maybe more toward the half a foot, maybe a little bit more than that, just because you're not getting that lake enhancement and you're likely getting some sleet and freezing rain. This is not going to be the only game in town this week. We will quiet down by Wednesday. That might really be the only kind of dry day around here. Watch what reemerges as we go late Thursday. This is going to be your next weather maker that right now looks like it wants to again lean predominantly snow. That would fall from late Thursday into Thursday night. We would get some backside stuff going in on Friday. That looks like some lake effect to me, maybe even into the first part of the weekend on Saturday. And that too looks like it could perhaps be another half a foot snowmaker plus, maybe more. We still have snow mix in there. We've got some guidance that suggests we're not completely 100% snow here. We'll see how this plays out. It's still pretty early in the game with that one. We got to get through the tonight and tomorrow situation there as well. We'll eventually warm up as we go deeper into next week. But you see some of our live shots right now. This is from just outside of Ontario Beach Park. That's the Genesee. You've got Lake Ontario, which you really can't see at this point because of the snow. And the Genesee is frozen over too. So snowing pretty good there. And this is the view right now in downtown Rochester. Not a ton of wind right now. That flag's not moving a ton. I think winds will gust to 30, especially along the lake by tomorrow morning. Some blowing and drifting snow will be possible with that. But it does look like those roads are now snow covered. And I can't imagine that is going to end up changing. Danny asking about Chili here. So Danny, we'll back this back up. Chili's in the spot that you've got an opportunity, depending on where that dry air tries to move in, that you could have about a foot of snow in the Chili area. That drier air does end up being more of a player, more 9 to 12 is probably your range, but we're watching that. This is kind of what we call almost nowcasting at this point, where the models, they're of very little use to us. We watch what radar looks like, we see what the reports are that are coming in. And, this is kind of a case right now where I could show you a lot of our high-resolution models, and it does not look like what radar is doing in reality here across northeast Ohio with some of that drier air. So now we watch and now we wait to see if that fills back in. Otherwise, we may need to adjust accordingly with this. But the reality here is, whether you get 6 inches out of this or 9 or somebody gets 12, there's going to be some pretty high impacts. This is going to be our biggest push of snowfall from a widespread nature instead of lake effect that we have had so far this winter. And, we'll see what happens with Thursday, Friday, if that one wants to rival that. But for the moment here, for the time being, we're pretty much locked in with heavy snow. Let me keep backing this up here. We'll go back to radar. There you go. So we got a while. And then we watch some of that drier air. How much of that wants to play a role? I mean, even once you get beyond that drier air, though, we do have some redevelopment down off to the southwest. But this definitely is interesting to me. There's a lot of holes in that radar that, the high-res models that are putting out 12, 13, 14 inches of snow do not appear to be picking up on right now. And you would like to think that if they were, they would not be spitting out 12, 13, 14 inches of snow. So let's see if this ends up filling back in. If it does, everything is hunky-dory with our forecast. If it doesn't, we'll see where we go. We'll be back on air here in a little over an hour at 11 o'clock. We'll make some calls accordingly with this, but you know what? Sit back and relax. I know we've got a lot of schools and businesses already that are coming in with cancellations tomorrow. All of those are on our website right now, and that is a pretty popular story. A lot of folks clicking on that to figure out if they got to go into work here tomorrow. So enjoy the snow. We haven't had a whole lot of this so far this winter. I'll be back with you on air at 11 o'clock.